High Counselor Daho stared at the holographic display with tired eyes. His silver robes, marking him as the head of the Galactic Council, felt heavy on his shoulders. The massive council chamber, usually filled with the quiet hum of discussion, had fallen completely silent. "Play it again," he ordered, his voice steady despite his growing unease. The message flickered to life once more. 3 research vessels, each carrying some of the Council's finest scientists, had vanished near the edges of human space. No debris, no distress calls. They were simply gone. "This is the 4th such incident this month," reported Hanbiol, her blue skin pale under the chamber's bright lights. As head of scientific research, she had personally selected the crews for these missions. "We must address this situation before." A flash of red light cut through her words. Emergency alerts rarely interrupted council sessions, but when they did, it never meant good news. Multiple contacts detected. The young officer's voice crackled through the speakers. 20. No, 30 unknown vessels just appeared at the edge of council space. Their design matches nothing in our database. Daho leaned forward in his seat. "Show me." The central display shifted, revealing sleek, dark ships that seemed to absorb the very light around them. No markings, no identifying features, just smooth black surfaces that radiated power and purpose. "Are they human vessels?" asked one of the junior counselors. "We believe so," Han Bidel answered, scrolling through data on her personal screen. "The energy signatures are unlike anything we've seen before, but their origin point matches known human territories." Daho raised his hand for silence as more data poured in. Ships were appearing at every major border point along council space, not attacking, not advancing, just watching. The message was clear: we can reach you whenever we want. "Send the standard greeting package," Daho ordered. "All frequencies, all known languages." Minutes passed. The tension in the room grew thick enough to cut with a knife. Finally, a response came, but not what anyone expected. Static filled the chamber speakers, followed by a single word in perfect council standard: "Soon." The council erupted into chaos. Some members demanded immediate military action. Others called for evacuation of border worlds. A few simply sat in stunned silence. Tyrim, a young military analyst recently promoted to the council, stood up. His voice cut through the panic. "They're testing us." All eyes turned to him. "Think about it," he continued, pointing to the display. "These ships appeared exactly where our research vessels vanished. They're showing us they know about our investigations. They're showing us they can strike anywhere, anytime. But they haven't fired a single shot. What do they want?" Han Biol asked, voicing the question on everyone's mind. Before anyone could answer, every screen in the chamber went dark. When they came back online, they showed the same message, repeated over and over in every known language in the galaxy. "You were warned. You ignored the warnings. There will not be a third chance." Daho looked around the chamber, at the faces of the most powerful beings in the galaxy, and saw the same expression on each one: fear. For the first time in recorded history, the Galactic Council faced an enemy they couldn't understand, couldn't predict, and couldn't control. "Get me everything we have on human history," he ordered. "Everything. No matter how small or insignificant it seems, we need to understand what we're dealing with before it's too late." As the council members rushed to comply, Daho couldn't shake the feeling that they had stumbled into something far bigger than a simple border dispute. The humans weren't just sending a message. They were setting the stage for something unprecedented. And the galaxy would never be the same. Ambassador Jaiwan stood at the bridge of the diplomatic vessel Star Whisper, watching as they approached the edge of human space. Her heart beat faster with each passing moment. This mission could either save the galaxy from war or push everyone closer to it. "We're receiving a message," said the communications officer. "Audio only. Leave. Now." The human voice was cold and clear. Jaiwan straightened her formal robes. "Send our response. We come in peace, seeking dialogue. Silence followed. Long minutes passed as the star whisper hung in space, waiting. Finally, another message came through. You have 10 minutes to turn around. This is your only warning. Show me what our scanners can see, Jai-1 ordered. The view made her blood run cold. Hidden behind various asteroids and space debris were hundreds of human warships. They had jumped straight into the middle of a military fleet without even knowing it. Ambassador, called out the sensor operator. I'm picking up something else. The humans, they're building something massive. The screens lit up with images that made no sense at first. Massive metal structures floated in space, each one bigger than a small moon. Some looked like shipyards, others like weapon platforms, but most were unlike anything the Council had ever seen. How long have these structures been here? Jai-1 asked. Based on the construction patterns, the science officer paused, double-checking his readings. At least 50 years. 50 years. The Council had only discovered humans 15 years ago. Or rather, that's when they thought they had discovered humans. They've been watching us, Jai-1 whispered. All this time, they've been watching us. A new alert sounded. The human fleet was moving, forming a wall between the star whisper and the strange structures. Their message was clear. Whatever they were building back there, they didn't want anyone to see it. Ambassador, the navigation officer called out. We have 5 minutes left. Jai-1 made her decision. Send them one last message. Tell them we understand their wish for privacy, but we need to talk about the missing research vessels. The response was immediate. Every human ship powered up their weapons. 4 minutes, said the navigation officer, sweat visible on his forehead. Just then, a young crew member named Tyrim rushed onto the bridge. Ambassador, I've analyzed their ship positions. Look at this pattern. He pulled up a diagram on the main screen. The human fleet wasn't just arranged for defense. Their positions matched exactly with the locations of every major council world. They're showing us they know where we live, Tyrim explained, his voice shaking. They could hit every major council planet at the same time if they wanted to. 3 minutes. Jai-1 looked at the countdown timer, then at the massive human fleet. All her diplomatic training, all her preparation, meant nothing in the face of this show of force. The humans weren't interested in talking. They were sending a message. Turn us around, she ordered. Get us out of here. As the star whisper turned to leave, one final message came through. Smart choice. Next time, there won't be a warning. The journey back to council space was silent. J1 spent the time preparing her report, knowing it would cause panic in the council. The humans weren't just powerful. They were prepared. They had been preparing for decades while the council thought they were dealing with a newly discovered species. The real question was, what were they preparing for? And why did they seem so afraid of the council learning the truth? As the star whisper jumped to light speed, Jai-1 couldn't shake the feeling that they had just glimpsed the tip of a very large, very dangerous iceberg. The emergency council chamber buzzed with fear and anger. High Counselor Daho had called every member back, even those from the farthest colonies. The failed diplomatic mission had left them with more questions than answers. Quiet. Daho's voice echoed through the chamber. We must think clearly. Every screen in the room suddenly lit up with the same symbol, a simple Earth flag. The humans were broadcasting. A calm voice filled the chamber. Attention. Galactic Council, you have asked why we refuse to talk. Now you will know. Council member Du Yun jumped up from his seat. His old face had gone pale. Stop the broadcast. We can't let them. Too late, said the human voice. For too long, Du Yun and others have hidden the truth. Show them, Counselor. Show them what you did 200 years ago. Du Yun fell back into his seat, shaking. How do they know about that? Those records were destroyed. The human voice continued. We found your old research base on Mars. We found the tests you ran on the first humans you discovered. We found everything. Gasps filled the chamber. Most council members had no idea what the voice was talking about. This had happened long before their time. Du Yun stood again, this time looking defeated. It's true. 200 years ago, we found Earth. We took some humans for study. We didn't think they were intelligent enough to remember. We didn't think they would ever reach the stars. But we did remember, the human voice said. We remembered everything. Every test, every cut, every death. When you came back 15 years ago, pretending it was first contact, we played along. We wanted to see if you had changed. The screen showed pictures of old council documents. They proved everything the voice was saying. The council had found Earth long ago, taken humans for experiments, and then hidden all records of it. You have 48 hours, the voice announced. Either the council members responsible for the Mars base turn themselves over to human justice, or we will take them. We know who they are. We know where their families live. We have waited 200 years for this moment. The broadcast ended. The chamber erupted in chaos. Is this true? Young Yi-Jin asked, looking at the older council members. Did we really do this? Du Yun nodded slowly. We thought we were being careful. We chose test subjects from a small, isolated area. We didn't know humans would remember and pass down the story through generations. We didn't know they would advance so quickly. How many council members were involved? Daho asked. 12, Du Yun answered. Only 3 of us are still alive. Tai Rim, who had returned from the diplomatic mission, spoke up. Those structures we saw, they're weapons, aren't they? The humans built them to protect themselves from us. From their point of view, we're monsters who kidnap and experiment on people, Yi-Jin said. No wonder they won't negotiate. The room fell silent as everyone realized what this meant. The humans weren't aggressive invaders. They were survivors demanding justice. Their massive military wasn't for conquest. It was for protection. We have 47 hours left, Daho announced. We must decide. Do we hand over our own people to face human justice, or do we face whatever punishment they have planned for us all? As the council members looked at each other, they realized something important had changed. For the first time in their history, they weren't dealing with a primitive species to be studied or a new race to be guided. They were facing their own past mistakes, and the humans were ready to make them pay for every single one. The council chamber had split into 2 clear sides. On the right sat Sung Min and his supporters, their faces hard with anger. On the left, peace advocate Yi-Jin led those who wanted to surrender the guilty council members to the humans. We cannot bow to threats, Sung Min shouted, pounding his fist on the table. If we show weakness now, every species in the galaxy will think they can make demands of us. This isn't about weakness, Yi-Jin replied calmly. This is about fixing a terrible wrong our people committed. The timer on the wall showed 30 hours left until the human deadline. High Counselor Daho watched the argument with growing concern. The division in the council was exactly what they didn't need right now. Every minute spent fighting was a minute lost in finding a solution. Junior diplomat Min-Ki rushed into the chamber, holding a datapad. High Counselor, I found something important in the human broadcasts. All eyes turned to the young diplomat. Look at their choice of words, Min-Ki said, displaying the human messages on the main screen. They keep saying council members responsible. Not just the ones who did the experiments, but those responsible. I think they want more than just the 3 survivors. Du Yun, one of the guilty council members, spoke up. What do you mean? They want everyone who helped hide the truth, Min-Ki explained. Everyone who destroyed records. Everyone who kept the secret for 200 years. That's why they know where families live. They're not just after the original 12. They want everyone involved in the cover-up. The room went quiet. This changed everything. How many? Daho asked. Tai Rim, working quickly at his console, answered. If we count everyone who knew and helped hide the truth, at least 50 council members and their families. Sung Min jumped up. All the more reason to fight. We cannot hand over 50 of our highest-ranking members. If we don't, Yi Jin countered, they might take everyone. You saw their fleet. You saw what they've built. Can we risk the lives of billions just to protect 50 people who helped hide a crime? Just then, something strange happened. The lights flickered, and a small hologram appeared in the center of the room. It showed an old Earth building, something called the Hague International Court. A new human voice spoke. We are not barbarians. We do not want revenge. We want justice. Those who surrender will receive a fair trial. Those who resist will not. The hologram disappeared, leaving the council in stunned silence. Min Ki's eyes lit up. Don't you see? This is different from their other messages. They're showing us they have rules, laws. They're not just angry victims. They're trying to follow some kind of legal process. A legal process that condemns us without a chance to defend ourselves. Sung Min growled. No, Yi Jin said slowly. They specifically mentioned a trial. They're offering more than we gave them 200 years ago. The council members looked at each other, understanding growing in their eyes. The humans weren't just showing strength. They were showing restraint. They could have attacked at any time in the past 50 years, but instead they waited, gathered evidence, and now demanded justice rather than revenge. Daho stood up. We will vote in 1 hour. Surrender the guilty and those who helped hide their crimes, or face whatever the humans have planned. Choose wisely. The future of our entire civilization may depend on this decision. As council members discussed in hushed voices, Min Ki couldn't help but notice something ironic. The humans were acting more civilized than the council had 200 years ago. Maybe, he thought, they weren't the primitive species that needed guidance after all. Intelligence officer Hyunwoo crept through the shadows of the abandoned space station. He had managed to slip past human defenses using technology that made his ship look like space debris. Now he needed to find out what the humans were really protecting. His scanner beeped softly. Something big was giving off strange energy readings deeper in the station. Control, are you seeing this? He whispered into his communicator. Back at the council's secret base, Spy Master Jin-A watched Hyunwoo's video feed. Yes, those energy patterns. I've never seen anything like them. Hyunwoo moved carefully down a dark hallway. The walls were covered with strange markings. They looked old, very old. These symbols, Jin-A said, they're not human. They're not council either. They look like what? Like the writings we found in the ancient ruins on Dead World 7. Hyunwoo stopped. Dead World 7 was a planet where an entire civilization had disappeared overnight, leaving only mysterious ruins. That was over 10,000 years ago. He turned a corner and froze. In front of him was a massive room filled with glowing containers. Each one held what looked like a sleeping person. Are those humans? Jin-A asked. No, Hyunwoo replied, checking his scanner. There's something else. Something older. Suddenly, a voice spoke behind him. We wondered when the council would find this place. Hyunwoo spun around. A human woman stood there, but she wasn't pointing any weapons at him. My name is Dr. Sarah Chin, she said, and since you're here, you might as well learn the truth. She walked to one of the containers and placed her hand on it. These are the last survivors of the species you call the Ancients, the ones who built the ruins on Dead World 7, the ones who visited Earth long before the Council did. But how? Jin-A asked through the communicator. They came to Earth 50,000 years ago, Dr. Chen explained. They were running from something. They put themselves in sleep chambers and hid among our ancestors, hoping that whatever was chasing them would pass by. Hyunwoo looked at the containers with new understanding. You're protecting them. Yes, when we found them, they told us about the thing that hunted them. It's still out there, sleeping in the space between galaxies, and it's going to wake up soon. What does this have to do with the Council? Jin-A asked. Dr. Chen's face hardened. When your people took humans for experiments, you didn't just hurt us. You almost exposed the ancients' hiding place. If you had looked more carefully, if you had done more tests, you might have found the genetic traces they left in some human bloodlines. Their hunters would have detected that kind of research. That's why you built such a big fleet, Hyunwoo realized. Not just to protect yourselves from us, but to prepare for what's coming, Dr. Chen finished. We needed to keep everyone away until we were ready. The ancients are finally waking up. They're going to help us fight what's coming, but we had to make sure the council wouldn't interfere again. Hyunwoo's communicator crackled. Jin A's voice was urgent. The deadline. We only have 10 hours left. Dr. Chen smiled sadly. Go. Tell your council the truth. Tell them we don't want war. We want allies. But first, we need justice for the past so we can face the future together. As Hyunwoo hurried back to his ship, he realized the humans hadn't been building weapons all these years. They had been building hope. With only 6 hours left until the human deadline, the council chamber erupted into chaos. Hyunwoo's discovery had changed everything, but council member Tae-sung didn't want to listen. It's a trick, Ta-sung shouted. These humans are lying about the ancients to scare us. Before anyone could stop him, Tae-sung pulled out a small device and pressed a button. On the main screen, 20 council warships jumped out of light speed near the human borders. What have you done? High Counselor Daeho demanded. I ordered our best ships to attack an hour ago, Tae-sung said proudly. They'd been waiting in position. The humans won't expect. Alarms blared through the chamber. On the screen, hundreds of human ships appeared out of nowhere, surrounding the council fleet. How did they know? Ta-sung whispered, his face white with shock. The human ships didn't open fire. Instead, they created a net of energy around the council vessels, freezing them in place. A familiar voice filled the chamber. Dr. Chen's. Is this really how you want to handle things, Council? We just showed your spy the truth about what we're protecting, and your response is to attack. Young scientist Hojun jumped from his seat. Wait, look at the energy readings from those human ships. Everyone turned to the data displays. The energy pattern matched exactly what Hyunwoo had seen in the ancient sleep chambers. They're using ancient technology, Hojun explained. That proves they're telling the truth. The ancients really are helping them. Just then, Jin A burst into the chamber. We've decoded more of the symbols from the abandoned station. They're a warning. The thing hunting the ancients. It feeds on civilizations. It wipes out all intelligent life in a galaxy, then sleeps until new civilizations rise. It's done this multiple times. The chamber went silent. Even Tae-sung sat down, his attack forgotten. How long do we have? Daeho asked. Based on the warning. Jin A checked her data pad. Less than 1 Earth year before it wakes up. Dr. Chen's voice returned. Now you understand. We're not your enemy. We've spent 50 years preparing to fight something far worse. But we can't trust you as allies until you prove you've changed. That's why we need justice for what happened on Mars. Hajum stepped forward. The ancient technology. That's why you built those massive structures we saw. They're not weapons. They're shields. Yes, Dr. Chen confirmed. The ancients taught us how to build planetary shields. But we'll need more than shields to survive what's coming. We'll need every species in the galaxy working together. Daeho looked at the timer. 5 hours left. Release our ships, he said to Dr. Chen. And I promise you, those responsible for the Mars incident will face justice. But we need to talk about this larger threat. We need to prepare. The ships are already free, Dr. Chen replied. They were never trapped. The energy net was just a demonstration. Think about that. We could have destroyed them, but we didn't. We're not the monsters here, Council. But something monstrous is coming, and we need to be ready. As the Council ships turned around, heading home, Daeho made a decision. Prepare the guilty for transfer to human custody, he ordered. And get me everything we have on ancient technology. If we're going to face this threat, We need to start working together now. Hajun looked at the star map, thinking about the massive things sleeping between galaxies. They had just gone from worrying about a human attack to facing the end of all civilization. Sometimes, he thought, the real enemy isn't the one you can see. It's the one waiting in the dark. 1 month after the deadline, the Great Hall of Human Justice on Earth was packed. Council member Yoon, he watched as the trials of those responsible for the Mars incident came to an end. The accused have been found guilty, announced the human judge. However, given their cooperation and the greater threat we all face, their punishment will be to help prepare our civilizations for what's coming. Du Yun and the other guilty council members nodded. It was better than they had expected. Yoon Hee turned to Dr. Chen, who sat beside her. Your people showed great wisdom in this judgment. Revenge won't help us survive what's coming, Dr. Chen replied. We needed justice, not punishment. Now we can move forward. The main screens in the hall lit up. They showed the first Joint Human Council project. Massive shield generators being built around key worlds. The ancients are teaching us more every day, Hajun reported from his new lab, where he worked with both human and ancient scientists. Their technology is amazing, but they're also warning us that we have only 8 months left. High Counselor Daho stood up to address the gathered crowd. For 200 years, humans hid and prepared, thinking they were alone against the Council. For 50,000 years, the ancients hid on Earth, thinking they were alone against the Galaxy Eater. Today, we stand together. We are not alone anymore. The screens changed to show deep space images. Something massive moved between the galaxies. It was waking up. We estimate it's as big as a solar system, Hyunmoo explained, pointing to the data. It has destroyed 12 galaxies before ours. But it has never faced united civilizations before. It has never faced the combined knowledge of humans, council species, and ancients. Tae Rim, now head of the Joint Military Force, brought up new images. The huge structures humans had built weren't just shield generators. They could come together to form something bigger. With ancient knowledge, human determination, and council resources, he said, we're building the largest defensive network ever created. When that thing arrives, it will find something it's never faced before. Hope. The hall erupted in cheers. Species that had feared each other just a month ago now worked side by side. Jin'e smiled as she watched council children playing with human kids in the hall's garden. Maybe this was what we needed all along, she said. Something bigger than our fears and differences. Something that forces us to work together. The Galaxy Eater won't expect this, Dr. Chen agreed. It's used to finding divided civilizations, easy to destroy. Instead, it will find us all united, ready to fight. Yoon Hee looked at the timer that now sat in every major building in human and council space. 7 months, 29 days until the enemy arrived. We're not running, she said firmly. We're not hiding. For the first time, we're all standing together. And that, said a newly awakened ancient, speaking through a translator, is why you might succeed where we failed. We tried to face it alone. You're facing it together. As the sun set on Earth, ships from all 3 civilizations flew overhead, practicing battle formations. In labs across the galaxy, scientists shared knowledge. In military bases, soldiers trained together. The fear that had filled the council chamber just a month ago was gone. In its place was something stronger, unity. High Counselor Daho raised his glass in a toast. To the future we will build together, if we survive. Dr. Chen raised her glass too. No, to the future we will build together, when we survive. The Galaxy Eater was coming. But for the first time in its long history of destruction, it would face something new. A galaxy that refused to die. Sometimes, the greatest threats don't divide us. They unite us. And in that unity, we find our strength.